ever evolving into XYZ. Can't afford you now, and you won't do what I expect. Would it kill you to let me right-click select? So let's just end it and not pretend we're cool. Cause I've been flirting with a more impressive tool. It's Blender, got its own foundation, built on the people's code around the world. It's easy to see why Blender needs no activation. It just gets you closer or further or different from reality.
You're rushing. What? You're rushing. No, I'm from Latvia.
Hola community, how are you? I was just watching this video, you probably know him. Today, Blender Everyday has a very special guest all the way from America. He's been here for the Blender conference in the past. He's been, he even made a song, the song that you just heard. It's Blender, oh Jesus, once it gets on your head, you can't really get it out. So for today's episode, I guess you found out, is the one and only Captain Disillusion. Hello.
Hello. Why would you do that to me? Oh, thank you so much, everyone. Why would you do that to me, Pablo? Why would you play that? My most embarrassing moment of my life.
It's I couldn't, like, you know, it's a running joke at the studio, like whenever the I don't know, something happens, I think it's Blender, and then you can't just say it's Blender. You have to sing it.
It's Blender.
Yes.
Sing it as out of tune as me. No, yeah, I'm glad it has a legacy.
It does.
It wasn't just a one-off thing.
No. It's like it just sticks there. How much time do you spend on it? I think
I have a foggy memory of that time, but I remember I was like, as usual, if you do a talk, you leave it till the last minute.
Yeah.
So I was preparing all these different things and trying to create that song. And I'm not really like, you know, a musician. So I'm like trying to figure out, how do you do a song and how do you play instruments as I go. So it was kind of an adventure, let's say.
That's really, I don't know, it really shows Blender from a completely different aspect than in your talk. You even mention about materials and how crazy materials are for like when you see it from outside, things, I guess it might look very different, but
yeah. Well, it's funny because what all these little jabs I was doing, they were basically already fixed at the time as 2.8 was just about to come out. So I'm sure it was annoying to the actual core Blender team to be like, well, you know, everything you're talking about is old news.
No, not really.
So much more.
I mean, no, even now, even today, adding materials in Blender is kind of a little nightmare, and it's gonna be there for a while. But that shows that you really use Blender, like you've been using Blender for longer than we think.
Yeah, I mean, I was flirting around with it for a while. It was one of those softwares that like I tried something with it and then I gave up, and I tried something again. I just kind of like I think it was Chalti that introduced me to it. I just saw that we were friends on Facebook for a long time, and he was like getting into animation and then joining the Blender team, and I was just like hearing little mentions of Blender here and there, and then I was like, I'll check it out, it's free, whatever. My license expired on another software, so I was like, let me play. I couldn't do anything, and then I gave up. And then it was like, but it's one of those things that I kept, because the community is around, I kept feeling like, well, everyone's doing it, I should be able to figure this out. And then eventually you reach that little moment when you're like, you find yourself going to Blender, like you want to do something that you could do in After Effects or whatever, but you're like, I'll just do this in Blender. There's a little bit more of like, I can breathe in Blender and animate something a little more precisely. So when I crossed that threshold where I turned to it naturally, that's when I made it like one of my tools to do stuff with.
And also because you don't know, like you use it for, I guess, everything. Like sometimes you're making graphics, I guess also you're making like VFX, shots, even I don't know what.
Yeah, like that's one of those things. I initially it was just a 3D, like when I need to resort to a 3D effect, like something properly rendered and stuff, something physically accurate. That's when I would go to Blender, and I still do. But now it's like sometimes it'll be something silly and simple, and I'll just like I'll just do it there, even though it's like a like wireframe graphics or something, like something flat.
Yeah, or like
So
a little robot, or like to help you out, and
yeah,
then just add to the story.
yeah. Well, you know, that could be a future. Like, yeah, I gotta have some CG characters in my arsenal in the show.
But it's not
It's a
your
little boring
first.
with me.
It's not your first software, I bet, because you've been like.
Yeah, I mean, I used to use Lightwave for 3D, and I
Oh.
still use a ton of. I said that in my big talk where I did the song,
Yes.
Pablo. You weren't paying attention.
Lightwave.
Yeah, Lightwave was great. I mean, it was my tool for a while, but then it's just like I stopped. Like I got tired of renewing, and then like kind of straight away. I mean, it's not like nothing wrong with any particular other software. It's just like the path of least resistance after a certain point. Like this is always there. Blender's always available. You can download it. You're on a new machine. You just like download it. You know, and then it's being so actively improved and updated that it's kind of like you want to be cool. You want to. It's like wearing the most fashionable thing or something. You know.
It kind of feels like that nowadays. That kind of the cool guys are using or learning.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is it really that or?
It's I don't know. Well, there's like I guess there's like factions. There's people who constantly talk about Blender are like weird and obsessed, and then there's people that just realize it does the job. Like it's I don't know. It's there. It's become industry standard. You heard Ton on the last.
The we want
conference.
thing. Yeah, I think
We
I think we're a bit far from there, but it's just the we want when you see that others are actually changing the way they do stuff because of Blender, which is maybe a nice thing to see.
Yeah.
So,
and also it's kind of cool that it's no longer maybe that huge in news. Well, there's this open source sort of software. Like it's normalized it, so that's kind of nice. Like it's no longer a crazy news story. Look at this weird thing that's free. Why? What's wrong with them?
Yeah, you see it more often. So how does Blender fit in your life? You said you use it for like maybe little graphics, maybe like mock-ups of things that you want to do. You use a tracker?
Yeah, I use the. To be honest, that is one of the things I don't use it for that much, but just because like I'm very slow to get familiar with certain features, or even just to migrate to software. Like I said, it took me years to even try Blender. But I use Senthais for tracking right now because it's like I find that if I do need to track something, that's not just like a simple like match. It's like just kind of like it has to look okay. Yeah. It has to look real. Like I have to like account for lens distortion and all these things. So I use like this over-the-top software to really track in detail. But I'm sure that Blender can do that. It's just my ignorance of like not learning that aspect of it. But actually, who is it? Sergey.
He made the tracker. Yes.
Yeah, he sent me a nice gift recently out of the blue. He sent me like a DVD. There's like a DVD course on the tracking part, and he like out of the blue just sent it to me.
A DVD for motion tracking.
Sorry?
A DVD.
Yeah, the DVD. So I mean, I'm sure a little bit has changed since the content on that DVD, but I just think it's really sweet that he sent me that because he really wanted me to get familiar with the tools, and I need to. So yeah, when I do that, I'll feel a lot easier because there's so much migrating involved. Like you gotta export like 3 sets of things to just like make things work, and so I track somewhere else. I go into Blender, use that data, but then you gotta scale it and align it and all that. It'd be nice to do it natively. So
yeah, Ian Ewer has made a very nice tutorial recently about but it actually hasn't changed much the workflow for doing the motion tracking in the past few years. So I think that DVD is still relevant, and most of it is like the techniques, right? Like the techniques behind, or like the technology, so to speak. So in your videos, you you debunk mysteries, but you also do some kind of also like technical. You explained topics lately as well.
Yeah, it's sort of like as the life cycle of my channel has gone. Like I started out as a very prickly, like look at these idiots kind of style, just criticizing and debunking like silly things that are, UFOs and ghosts and videos like that. And then it's gradually, as I've matured, I've mellowed into leaning more into explaining like, well, this is a visual effect, but let's look at like how that's done and whatever. And isn't it kind of impressive how they did that? I still kind of get annoyed when something is just a straight up hoax or whatever, but there's less and less of that. I think the public is a little bit smarter, more like seasoned
Educated.
in terms, yeah, and yeah, maybe in part thanks to people like me. But it's nice to like people make more and more complicated and impressive stuff, or sometimes like do something simple, like Kevin Perry or something, like people, or Zach King, like doing tricks that it's like it's not that complicated a technique,
Yeah.
but it's just like a really creative use of something, like a simple like jump cut or something. And explaining that is interesting. And sometimes it's like I never thought of doing it that way. Like I've been doing that trick, that particular visual effects technique in boring ways all my life, but I never thought to use it that way. And
Yeah.
it's interesting to deconstruct that
I
while
think
wearing weird makeup and looking and talking like a crazy person.
I think it's a brilliant combination of like the part of the debunking, and then digging into like the effects and how it was done, and then explaining the topics behind it. I think it's brilliant. I think it's
Well, it's very kind of you to say.
it's many angles. They found you didn't get a good reception from people when explaining topics, I think.
Oh, well, no, I'm constantly like amazed by the good reception that it gets. I think people like knowing things, like like learning things when they don't feel like they've been taught something. Like, if you want to learn something, you click on a video that's called tutorial or like this explained, whatever.
Yeah.
But then like no one likes to click on something that doesn't say that, but then they're given a lecture, an explanation. Like that's annoying. So I try to like, it's entertainment with like a little bit of like, isn't this interesting?
Yeah.
How this works, but like it's coded in a lot of narrative and me like dealing with my own weird demons or something in cartoon form, and like trying to do little storylines and stuff, or basically like trying to live out my dream of being a filmmaker through what is technically educational videos.
Dream of being a filmmaker.
Well, like
that's how you started, by making a film.
Yeah, I mean, I went to school I went to film school, and my degree is in film, and I'm just kind of like, I've always been like a jack of all trades, like in a freelance sort of way, but like truly master of none. Like I just like, well, I do some editing, I do some camera work, like I've shot like
musician.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's on the really low end of the spectrum, like just playing around. Like I don't think I've ever made a piece of music for anyone for money or anything. But yeah, like just doing every kind of thing that anyone needs in local productions. And then YouTube became like a focal point of creative output, like for so many millions of people.
Wow. And it's your full-time job nowadays to do YouTube videos. Yeah.
Now I'm very lucky at the moment to be able to make this Captain D stuff as my main gig, my only gig, honestly. Like it's kind of funny, like nowadays, if you're my patron or anyone that follows, just a subscriber on my channel, it's like you can witness my struggle to like, oh, every video is more complicated and it takes more time, and I'm just like doing it on my own weirdly still. But like before, when I was doing it as a part-time thing, somehow the videos were good, but I was like juggling. Sometimes when you have more to do, you do more, like you get more done faster. And then like the more you focus on one thing, the more it becomes this precious elevated thing, and you just like put way too much attention and care into it. And the result is good, but it's like it becomes a real skill to just keep going, to like stay on schedule and just like
do more.
Yeah, just like it's a real balance.
Wow.
It's a skill I'm still learning.
How long have you been like working on this full time?
This is, I think, like I started my Patreon that's the day I kind of, not the day, but maybe within a couple of months I switched to just doing full-time work, and we're in our 5th year, 4 or 5 years now. it's just been like the only thing I do.
Oh,
So yeah,
that's amazing.
so far so good.
So, okay, Blender. Let's switch to the Blender stuff. There is
What are we here for? Yeah, Blender.
No, it's always interesting. I don't know. I like to learn how, you know, how artists go from one side to the other, start like growing in like their career switches from one topic to others, and find towards what they actually want to do. And so
journey.
the learning journey. So the today, of course, we are live. There are questions already. There are 17 comments so far.
Yes. So many questions for me. A whole 17 of them.
Also, well, I some of them, some comments involve many questions inside.
Okay.
So
let me find that link so I can.
Oh, I can actually
visually read it. Oh yeah, well you'll tell me. I'm an audio learner.
Audio learner. I'm gonna. Okay,
anyway.
yeah. No, I'm gonna. I share it to you, but also I'm gonna read for you. But before, I want to see actually how your Blender. Can you share the screen somehow?
Oh,
Just
God.
like.
Well, we were talking earlier, and I had something open. I use Blender in like, you know, I hope it's very obvious that my talk was called the world's greatest Blender as an extreme form of overcompensation, because even though I've been using Blender for years, I kind of, again, because it's like one facet of what I do, I also write my videos, I also act in them, and I do all these things. It's like there's nothing impressive I do in any one aspect, and Blender is one of those things where I'll use it for even rudimentary things, like the project I have open right now. How do you share this thing? Share screen.
Top right.
Like I was one of the, it's not a big spoiler or anything, but like one of the videos, I'm covering a bunch of videos in the next episode, including like a Zach King video, and I was just trying to do a little schematic of like go from the actual video to kind of a floor plan of how things are arranged. So I will, like, this is something you could clearly do in After Effects in like a few minutes, but I just figured, like, I don't know, it just drew me to, like, for some reason I just felt more comfortable like doing this little transition to a floor plan in Blender. So it's like goofy little things like this,
yeah,
that I'll go to. But in this video, there's also a ton of things going on, like in the more realistic realm, where I want to stop sharing this before people start analyzing how terrible my skills are. There's also like a lot of things going on in this. One of the reasons it's taken forever, I'm doing some funky stuff with like the set and the environment I'm in. So I'm trying to do slightly more realistic, even though it's not that realistic, like more serious effects there. And that took me a long time. That involved a lot of tracking, because basically doing like a virtual set with some camera moves and things. And I'm sitting in this immediate environment. There's no deep background or anything, so everything has to match exactly, and there's things on the walls. So I was using Blender for that a lot. And if I'd known how to do tracking in Blender, it would save me probably like a whole month of work, I'm guessing, like, because it's like I said before, it was a lot of like, let's do this over here, and then let's do a journey of transforming it for Blender. Yeah, so I can show you one of the things I can show you.
Oh,
just
sure.
This is not anything other than a list of files, but where is it? Where are we? Okay. Just this is this is all the files for this upcoming video that I'm finishing today, by the way.
Today.
Well, I last night, remember I said I was trying to finish the final touches on it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stay awake, like I said on Twitter. I was trying to, at a certain point, people on Twitter were making me go to sleep, because they're just like, well, we'll just finish it today. What's the difference if it's gonna happen like by morning? And I'm in the last stage. Sorry, I'm showing you. This is a list of all the shots that are done in Blender. This is almost like most of the video. So it's like, it's a ton of things.
For every shot.
Yeah, almost. I mean, it's not quite every shot, but many. Like, it's probably like 70%. So it's like just shot numbers and little descriptions and stuff. Don't look too closely.
No. I mean, this is all a blur anyway, so don't worry. It's streaming quality. So
yeah. So like. Yeah, and I'm trying this video also, because it's a little bit bigger than usual. It was like an exercise in organizing and naming all the shots and stuff.
How did you
do like Sorry.
How do you usually organize yourself? What changed in this one?
When things are short enough, you can just call the shots like the punch to the face, explosion.
1, 2, 3, final.
Yeah, but not, yeah, version one final. But this was like, okay, I have to have scene numbers, shot numbers, and like do that numbering effects thing where in case I need to put a shot in the middle, there's like a number, there's like skipped numbers between.
Oh yeah.
Like you name it by like tens or whatever. So yeah, I was doing a lot of that because there's just so much, and I have to hop back and forth and do things out of sequence. So yeah,
split into scenes.
I feel like that got boring for a second, but yeah.
No,
it's
no.
like
But I don't know. I am really a big fan of pipeline and learning about different pipelines.
Yeah.
It shows you how either.
Yeah,
biggest.
I've sort of fallen into like a certain process. It's not strict, but it's like I'll edit my thing. It's funny because I'll edit my video within like 2 or 3 days on Avid, just the actual editing. Like this is the take I say, then this is the take, and this is the timing of everything. And then it's like a month or more, or in this case, like we're in like our 4th month of like just effects and doing all the visuals, and then like a few days for sound. So it's like this very uneven process, like editing, effects and graphics, and then sound, and you're done. It's a very like strangely paced process for me.
Wow.
But yeah, but basically I do everything like my main thing. One of the things actually like I would like to do in Blender in the future is that everything is encapsulated in After Effects.
Yeah.
Because I realized like after a while, like almost every shot has some kind of effects treatment, so I might as well just make it a giant After Effects project. But after a certain amount of size, it's like After Effects just becomes like really, really slow and difficult to deal with. So I wonder, I don't know. Like I was looking at Blender as like the video sequencer part of it, and just like keeping everything together in that.
Yeah, it depends. It has its ups and downs. The sequencer is getting better lately with this caching, and like overall performance is getting better. But I still think it's a long way. However, having the scenes in there directly, that's a perk you don't get elsewhere.
I was playing with that. Now I'm also feeling the call of the wild of the grease pencil. I want to work on something 2D, like I want to do, because I've played around with animation in the past. Like as a young person, I was going to become like a traditional animator at some point. That was like a thing I was aiming for.
3D, 2D, classic, traditional.
Yeah, just like 2D drawing animation. I mean, at the time, because that was what animation was. That's not to show my age, but you know, you could either do stop motion or you could do drawing animation. Yeah. Those were the options. Yeah, like because of that, I'm like, if I did that, like I was like just doing sample like scenes and or like a sample project where I would do individual scenes of 2D drawing, grease pencil stuff, and then combining them into like a master scene of all the shots and how I would like jump from in and out of it and have the sound. I don't know. I was just, sometimes you just like do a mock-up project that doesn't amount to anything just to see how would this workflow work, and you're not actually doing any creative work. Sometimes I do that.
Sometimes it does evolve in something, like sometimes you pull one idea.
That's true. You start actually working inside the project, and it becomes an actual thing.
It's something. Well, I mean, you know, he also was making an animation test for a rig that we were making on the Blender Cloud, and then like a character, like random character, and then he had a little bit of story. It's like, okay, it's running, and then like this evolved into this short film that we are now making at the studio.
The sort of video gamey like 2D thing.
Coffee run.
That looks awesome. I can't wait to see that.
That started as a very tiny test for like how a running cycle for the character. That's how like can evolve and get super long. So
you never know.
Yeah. So you mentioned that I was checking out on your Patreon that the next goal will get you closer to having a crew and a studio. Is that gonna help on the making the 3D part, like the effects of it shorter, or you want to do everything?
Yeah, I mean it certainly should, but the full disclosure, what you're seeing there is Patreon fluctuates up and down, especially when you take really long to make certain videos. So sometimes it'll go up, sometimes it'll go down. So we've actually like reached that goal at one point, but nowadays, it's a tough time. Things are going to go down a little bit. So it's just that I bounced just short of that goal momentarily. So everybody. No, I'm not gonna encourage people to come to Patreon. It's not the right time to be like. People have their own things to worry about. In
Well,
fact,
on
I
the
told
other
my
hand,
patrons.
it's always nice to support, online.
But I mean, like, I think people should like take care of themselves first, and if they even like some of my patrons, like I kind of wrote saying, if you need to, tighten your belt and whatever, this is one of the things might be frivolous, but I'll be here when you come back. I think everyone on Patreon should like make that clear. But anyway, that's just short, way to say I had just reached that goal and like was trying to figure out on this video. I worked with a few people, like I had a couple of people involved in doing some of the shots. Excuse me, I gotta really clear my throat.
All right. I will make the sound for you.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm like learning how to do that for a little bit too long because I've been such a lone wolf my whole like career. So yeah, I am like at a place where I can certainly do that. So it's just like as far as being financed by the patrons. So I'm just like dipping my toe into that process, and I work with two effects guys but I still was like I gave some people some shots, but it was like largely on me. It was you have to really organize a project for a team. I am sure you know that better than most people. Like if you're doing your own thing, but you're just like outsourcing some stuff, it's a real decision. Like, okay, this is simple and isolated enough that you can just do it, and I'm sure they'll figure it out. But if it's something that's part of your like thing and they need to understand like 20 things about it, and you need to do 10 iterations of it, it's not really conducive to like working yourself and then having someone help. So anyway, this is just talking shop about like I am definitely, that's my next step in my whole channel and my whole like endeavor, my whole enterprise here.
Well, looking forward to it.
And maybe I should do a collab with the Blender Animation Studio and just have you do like all my 3D.
Absolutely.
All the time. You guys need things to do, right? You're sitting there not busy at all.
You gotta come over though.
Amsterdam. I gotta visit again.
Yes. So, well, thank you for that very nice story. I'm gonna switch into the question mode. Question mode.
Question mode. Do we need a musical sting for this? Don't you have your different little
music? I can play with the Mario pipe.
That's okay.
Like switching
Don't
levels.
Make your life harder.
There is a Mario music as well. I can have a few options.
I have a keyboard right here, but it's not. I had turned it off to like not make noise and whatever feedback things, because I'm, the sound for a stream is kind of hard to get right.
To get it right.
But I would otherwise like.
But you have like your keyboard right next to you.
Yeah, I have it like, I have, my computer keyboard, but there's like I have one of those desks that has like a pull out part with the music keyboard underneath. I always like when I do something that involves a music keyboard, even if it's not playing music, but like I want to trigger like a sound, I don't know, like I'm designing for the sound design of the video.
Yeah.
It's always like over here, and I spent years like going like that, like, and it was just making my neck hurt. So I invested in like one of those like weird fancy desks with like things you could screw into it into like devices and things, and it's got this little pull out keyboard part. So I'm all decked out here. I feel like I'm flying a spaceship.
Nice. I did that I think during the quarantine. I moved around the office like, I don't know, 6 times. I counted them 6 times, moving everything around. Jesus, too much time in here. But you work from home usually, right? So is this not quarantine?
I kind of have an annex, like sort of, it's an office, but it's like I just walk straight and like it's like attached. It's like it's a next door apartment. All right, I just got my next door apartment is my office, and that way I'm dedicating myself. Like I isolate myself. My girlfriend doesn't see me. Everything is just, I don't see the world. The windows are covered. It needs to be a sufficiently unhealthy environment to be really creative.
Yeah, and so you want to spend, like, you want to get out of there quickly.
Yeah, but and lately I literally like I can't pick the right chair because you sit so much that you just your legs start to hurt. And I've been to the Blender offices many times, and I'm really like enticed by the standing desks. You guys all have these little risers on your desks.
It's the best investment ever.
I realize that, but because I've invested in this goofy, like old school edit bay sort of desk, it doesn't really have a lot of like room to put one of those things. And plus, like a lot of it is just kind of there to
Yeah.
stay on the desk. So I gotta rethink my life. I gotta maybe
Yeah. Make a
another-
hole in the floor.
yeah.
Then you go
That was
down.
my next thought. Just make a little dugout into
Yeah.
the ground. Just break all the pipes and everything that's under here and stand proud.
Exactly. Or
That's
just
3 feet
just
tall.
go on your knees, you know.
Knees, yes, that's
Yeah.
it's a different kind of
There are
exercise.
options. There are options. All right. So the question number 1 is on blender.community. If you want to get your questions before the end of the show, the first one is: how do you put on the human mask top over the metal face? Is it VFX or practical effects?
Practical. I got a mask. Where is it? It's not in this room, but it's just a mask. I just pop it right on. The hair. I got it. Well, actually, it's difficult because I gotta like do a bald cap, put my hair all away, and then the mask has the normal hair. It looks very similar, but
Yeah.
there's no easy way around it. It's a human skin mask. I mean, first I got to take this all off. This is human makeup.
The whole thing,
Yeah,
flesh
yeah.
and stuff.
It's dedication. What can I say? It's how you make quality videos.
Next question is: have you always been so handsome?
Wow.
Is that VFX or is that?
That's a lot of VFX. I mean, you wouldn't believe what a complicated arrangement I have over here. There's like a professional camera, a very specific depth of field, some makeup, some like there's like different options on some of the live chat
Yeah.
interfaces to make your skin all
Filters.
smooth. I'm using about 7 of those at once. I just kind of rigged it up, and that's how I do it.
That's nice.
Again,
Nice rim
dedication
light
to
also.
craft.
Blue rim light.
Oh yeah, thanks. You like that? It's right there. It's just out of shot because the things in the back are blue, so I got to give that little feeling like there's blue going on here too.
Yeah.
So Oh, by the way, do you want me? I meant to ask at the beginning, like, do you want the fill or this is a little more intimate? Like, because I know it's
Oh.
evening time there now. Maybe this works better, but it's kind of bright where you are, so I
Yeah,
want to match you. So
I-
here's a nice fill. Fills things out.
Mysterious. Yeah.
All right,
Both-
we'll
both-
be mysterious for a while then. Okay.
Yes,
This
mysterious.
is evening Q&A mode.
I should also be mysterious.
Yeah.
I need
If you have
to
a-
tell the sun to go down. It's 5 p.m. here, so
Yeah, come on, hurry up, son.
yeah.
I'll have like a tumbler of scotch and just be like, all right, question time, please.
I've been expecting you. So the next question is: what tool or technique do you use for the presentations for your live talks or performance? Says.
What tool or technique? Well, I've the software, the really nice little piece of software I use that I've only done like 3 or 4 talks, and I've always used it because I'm always overcompensating for like Blender is not the only fancy over the top talk. Every talk I've done has like that kind of thing going on because I'm scared people won't think I'm interesting, so I have to do all these audio visual gags. And I use a software called
songs.
QLab. It's like
QLab.
QLAB. And it's a little thing. I think it's just for Mac, but it's like a simple piece of software that's almost just a playlist. It's made by a company called Figure 53, and they just it's like you create a playlist of things that you want to happen, and you can press spacebar to keep playing the next cue. But the things that are the list are like all kinds of triggers. Like it can play an audio file, it can play a video file.
Just
You
whatever
can
you
install. Yeah, like you can put like certain markers in a video where it will pause there, or it will reach a certain point and it will loop like this little part that you make that's loopable, and then until you tell it to stop or just continue on that clip. Like a lot of my presentation things are like there's and it can play multiple layers at once.
Yeah.
And even if you wanted to get fancy, you could even have like multiple screens do different things coordinated.
Wow.
And like I attempted to do on the Blender talk for the first time, I even connected some lights, and they were doing interactive
Yes.
things that were it didn't really like it was a little bit more elaborate what I planned to do, but then when I got to Europe, I realized like half my equipment doesn't even like work, and it does there's all kinds of weird electrical things. Like I thought something was compatible with both Europe and the US, and it wasn't, so it was a lot of last minute figuring out, but it kind of worked. So yeah, it's a whole like theatrical presentation running app that I've been playing around with, and it's cool. It's also good for like I'm gonna try to use it in like live streams and see if I can more easily play things and like trigger certain stuff, all because you can assign like 5-10 things to happen with like one click of the next cue and stuff like that.
Which if you had like a MIDI controller, whatever, you can even trigger with that.
Yeah, because I got when I do the talks, I have like I found a clicker that's designed like it fools it. Most clickers, it's like a special signal that it knows it's for like a presentation clicker. But this clicker just pretends that it's pressing a key. So there's like 3 buttons on it that you can just tell. This is the space bar. This is, number 1, number 2. So you can have a couple of things happen by just, the computer just thinks you're pressing the buttons on the computer. So it's a handy way to do that. But yeah, it works with some MIDI controllers as well. So the possibilities are endless.
Endless, yeah. Oh, thank you. I didn't know that software. Too bad it's only for Mac. But
well, maybe
it's
they'll
maybe there is a nice alternative. Next question by Damian. Hi Pablo, hi Captain. My appreciations. Not a question. Oh, it's a proposal for Blender Live 100. If we can see Tone himself, for the 100 episode of we had him for the episode for the Epic. I can ask.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, he was.
What number are we at right now? What is this?
Well, I don't know. I messed up with the numbers. This is like Blender every day because I thought, okay, I'm gonna do it very short. And this is episode 9 of Blender every day, and it's Blender today. I just don't talk about Blender stuff. The new Blender stuff.
Is Blender every day is tied to sort of the quarantine period, right? Like it's like you're doing it because you have the time, because you're kind of I'm at home.
I
really hope we don't get to 100 on these ones.
Well,
we just might.
I'm gonna save that clip for later. Now, Blender today is on episode 97 on last Friday and this Friday. I'm doing it on Fridays now. I'm just trying stuff, but this is like its own thing. It's a bit confusing. Like everything is confusing in the Blender world. Blender Institute Foundation.
Blender today, Blender every day, Blender now. You need Blender now, which is like streams that are unexpectedly unscheduled. Just pop on.
Just always.
Blender now.
Just stream always. Whatever is on the screen.
Blender nonstop.
Forever.
TM.
Blender forever. And so the question by Jorge says, what would be a good tool according to your workflow that is now currently missing or lacking in Blender?
I guess we touched on that. Well, it's not missing, but yeah, I really wish that the whole video editing part was like a little more on the level of everything else, so that you could really feel like because if the mission of Blender is to be like a all-in-one tool, like that last step is really where you want to feel like this thing has got it. Like even if this project becomes unmanageably huge, the tool, like these parts will work as they're supposed to. And even in the beginning, like with the editing, I guess I'm speaking like ignorantly because I don't know all the shortcuts for the just cutting video and stuff. But if it behaved more like what standard tools are like, that would be such a huge leap to just like rewire certain shortcuts and procedures. So like, okay, I know how to cut this, I know how to skip this little part, in point, out point.
It's really just the
like
basics.
So many people. Sorry.
It's really just the basics. I mean, like you said,
output. It's like making it more conventional, not necessarily like as boring as everything else, but just at least certain things. Like there's so many people that are editing right now on other software. If they felt like it's an equivalent and there's really no reason to use one over the other, like that would be the first step in just jumping into Blender, because like it's just easier. Like you naturally you get funneled into Blender, but right now I'm not really funneled into Blender to like cut my actual footage I just shot. But I could be, like that would be, I think, be a smart move. I don't know, but I'm sure it's not as easily done because it's just fundamentally different kind of software and built differently.
It's also that part of Blender is very, very, very old. Like it's one of the oldest parts even in Blender, and no one really, I don't know, maybe the first version wasn't really great, so in people like developers that try to look at it, they like kind of look away. Now we have a full-time developer that is actually looking into the sequencer now, and that's brought us all the caching, all the new caching, and the new tool system as well. and there are people from the community contributing. But I also agree that Blender video sequencer has the potential to be insane, because even like it doesn't have to be, for me, it doesn't have to be equivalent to other big editing softwares, because it's not really the focus, but like the basics: cutting, input, output, performance, and all the actual editing, but maybe not the, I don't know, DaVinci has Fusion and audio editing capabilities. Like maybe not, doesn't need to go that way, but we have a 3D and 2D software inside of this video editor, so why not?
Yeah, but like what we were saying earlier about the grease pencil scenes, like I would love to kind of have that as like the 3D portion. Like if a 3D scene could be like linked up to my footage I'm compositing it with in like a really easy way, and that footage came from the initial edit of the thing. Like I edited the shot in which like I have to watch a spaceship land, and then that shot that I cut in the video sequence editor, I now somehow implement with I hook it up with a 3D scene that now has the ship, and I can just jump into the normal Blender 3D scene to do the ship, but I also have it as a camera backdrop, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I want the world, Pablo. I want it all to work perfectly the way I imagine. Today,
it will be a good world, so we should work on it.
Yeah.
The next question says, let's see if there are actually, which features do you like the most?
Well, I guess now it's like hard to, I'm trying to remember what other software like Lightwave felt like, but I just love, like, okay, when I did get into Blender, I learned you get into Blender when you internalize many of the shortcuts and little ways to switch between different stuff, different modes, different, and when that becomes second nature, you just feel like sort of godlike powers, and you don't want to see the buttons, you don't want to see the tools. So now the Blender 2.8 and beyond is very like made obviously understandably more user friendly. There's the little thingies for navigation with the, you know, and I turn that off now because I'm like, no, I know this, okay? You don't need to be in my
Go
face.
away.
And yeah, so I like that. Like I like this little, like if you sit down at this software, you could look at it and you could like whatever in my setup, because I make like minimize everything. You could like figure it out, but not easily. And I can just like, I know all the secret cheat codes.
Yeah.
I know that maybe that's weird. Like the thing I like is that I make the software hard to use the way I set it up. But I just like, because with the shortcuts and things, it's just, that's where all the power comes from. Like the way that Blender seems to switch, like just switching between different render, like, well, obviously the two render engines and the different views and things, like it just happens so like easily. And like going into edit mode and into like anything that's like I feel like in other software it has to think for a moment when you're like doing these different things. And there's something very fluid and like quick about Blender and all these like navigating yourself through all of it in every possible way.
Switching from whatever workflow to the other, you mean?
Yeah. I mean, from those things, from literally navigating yourself around all of the things, like somehow, I don't know, like in other software, things feel clunky. It feels like it's like rethinking its whole life when you're like jumping to like a different mode of work.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Like you said you were editing shaders. What are you doing now?
Yeah.
So how's do you modify your Blender a lot? Like do you have a lot of quick favorites or shortcuts that you added yourself?
Not a ton, but a couple. Like I like to see, for some reason I always need to see the direction of the faces, blue red. Like for some, like I find myself messing up with that so much that I constantly need a quick favorite to like check, like what is this? Is this inside or outside? Things like that, like a couple of different things, or just taking away all the overlays once in a while. But I don't have it tricked out that much because my needs are so simple.
No, but even then, because they are simple, maybe you make it more simple even. Like you said, remove the navigation that you use, remove a bunch of parts.
I definitely get like overwhelmed by too many elements and stuff, and so I try to minimize everything and just bring it up as I need it. But I don't want to. Also, I'm worried about straying too much away, because like sometimes you have to sit down at a new installation of Blender, and you don't want to be completely lost and paralyzed. So I try to keep like a happy medium. But I do for some reason, I'm trying to make myself like switch between the different what's the term for the different windows?
Workspaces.
Workspaces, because like that help. Like it's nice if you're used to them, but I'm always like pulling out new windows and stuff.
I'm the
just
same.
like do what I want. Yeah, I just like 90% of the time I'm like just flipping the timeline or the dope sheet to node editor, and that's it. Like I just have like a vertical split screen for like 90% of everything I do.
Switching one to the other, yeah. And I use shortcuts even for that, like Shift F3 for the node editor, Shift F12 for the dope sheet.
Yep, I do that. I am bewildered when I see tutorials when people aren't doing that. I'm sure they're doing it just to make it clear for the viewer, but like I hope that people are doing the switching by keys when they're actually working. And like things like in the node editor, bringing up different nodes. Like I've learned most of the shortcuts to like the key sequences that will take you through the menu to the shader node you want, like, you know, whatever. Shift A, what is it, S, and then like
T
for so all of those like for diffuse. That without doing that, it gets a little too cumbersome because there's just so many steps. I mean, it's nothing that can be helped, but yeah.
I love that. It feels like you're playing the piano, or I don't know, it's like SP, or like doing a mirror in X5 is like X, like M, X, Control M.
It would
X,
be cool to
5.
hook up the music keyboard to those sequences, and somehow like, oh, if I play the like chopsticks, it'll build me this kind of shader.
Well, there was once like an advertisement for Blender that you use like learning how to play the piano. You know, at first it's like it's super hard, but then it becomes easy. Once you know it, it's just like you just play the piano. You just need to know anything. So Blender used to be more like that, and now
that's what it feels like.
Now,
now there's like an option for people who don't prefer that, you know.
To play the piano,
it's like now what I was saying earlier, when you look at the default installation, you sit down, you can figure it out.
Yeah.
Because it's all the important elements are there, and you're like, okay.
And it's most accessible too for people that need that. But yeah, sometimes I cringe when I see like I don't know, I saw a video on YouTube the other day of a guy modeling something in like 10 minutes, like modeling an animation, something in 10 minutes. And it was against the clock, right, with a timer, and it was moving the vertices with the manipulator, not with G, but like arrow up and down. I was like, dude, you're on your... It was actually, the end result was great, but it's like, if you just press G, your life would change so much.
One of life's pleasures is secretly judging all the people that are showing you how to use Blender and thinking you can do it better. But then when push comes to shove, you usually can't do anything. I mean, if you're me.
Yeah,
like...
no, well, that's what happened. I saw the end result. I mean, I'm not even mad, you know. Your result is great, and I couldn't make that in that amount of time.
I'm actually like, because seeing a few of your streams, like I'm impressed by how, you know, multitasking you are with all the things when you're showing the new features and everything. Because I tried to do a few streams, and as in the guise of like showing like my process and working on this or that, and I am like 20% of my normal speed when I'm trying to like chat with people, or even just like if I just know people are watching me on the stream, I slow down to like a snail's pace. And Blender, whether it's Blender or After Effects or anything. So I'm always impressed by people who can just like function under all kinds of environments.
Making a tutorial or something, it's impossible. I had a moment like that on a Blender conference once when I had to use Blender in front of everybody, and I freaked out. I was super slow. It was like some kind of contest or something to make something fast. I failed. It was Blender 2.4 even. Oh, because I changed my Blender. That's how, because I had all configured. Okay, next question related to that. When was the first time? When did you start using Blender for the first time? I think you already mentioned, but like...
Yeah, I mentioned. It's hard to remember. I'm not good with like judging time, but it was probably 5-6 years. Like if you count like just dabbling in it. And again, like there's times when I go for long stretches of not using it because it coincides with my like cycles of making the videos. So I'll get to the post-production phase of a video and I'm like, okay, how does this work again? How do I do 3D? And so I go and then I inevitably with every project, even though I'm trying not to like overcomplicate things, I end up like encountering an effect I have to do, and how do I do this? Like, how do I like make a rope or whatever, like physics and things like that. And I have to go on expeditions of like looking at tutorials that are fast enough for me to quickly figure out what it is, but quality enough that it's the right way to do it. And so I learned, like with every project, I'm kind of like learning a whole new part, and sometimes I forget it, but sometimes I retain it.
Comes back.
But yeah, over the years, it comes back like, oh, I remember I had to do the rope. How did I do that? Yeah, you hook up the things to the things. And yeah, but over the years, like the cumulative time really improves. Like even if you don't use it often, if you do it for 5 years, you retain something.
It helps, yeah. And making tutorials actually really helps. There are many things that I forgot how they're done, and because I made short tutorials in the past, I go and watch them, and it's like, oh, now I remember.
Yes, I've done that a couple. I mean, I only made like a handful of tutorials, but sometimes I'm like, I know I'll understand myself.
Yes,
so let me go look at that real quick.
Yes.
And then I'm like, wow, that guy is so slow at giving a tutorial. Wait, that guy's me. I need to be less wordy next time.
He's not moving with G. Oh, what the heck? So
that was you, wasn't it? The tutorial
it
you were
was me all along. Next question is, how do you, Captain, how do your ideas for videos come about, and how do you keep motivated to complete those videos?
Well, motivation part can be tough because, especially like now, when a video is taking forever, I kind of lose, not that I lose track of like what the heck I'm doing, but like I have to trust that what I started and the way I edited it and the things I'm saying make sense and are funny, because when you're in like day 300 of doing something, like some tracking some dot on a face, you just don't know if the line like you think this is unfunny, this doesn't make any sense, my explanation is not clear, and maybe it's wrong. And I've learned to like just trust my past self that the script I wrote is okay back when I did it, and that I was thinking about it when I was performing it, and the things I decided to do make sense because they seem like garbage throughout the rest of the process. And then when it's done, you're like, this is okay, this is actually, when it's all put together, it's good. Yeah. So that's my personal, but that usually doesn't happen to someone who can make a video in a week or something or less. So because it's all a blur. You're like, okay, I had a great idea, and now I'm making it, and now it's done.
Yeah.
But when it takes a while, you just have to become like your own employee and like a kind of just a servant to your initial vision, even when it stops making sense, because you're just following your own instructions.
That happens in film as well. Like it's even worse when you have people working with you. And for example, the only experience I have is by making the Caminandes short film with the llama, and I don't know, maybe there's this one joke that in one moment I was, that's nice, and then you spend months making people have to render and animate it, and like so many times where you question is like, this really, I mean, this is worth these people's time and render
conversely,
time.
And sometimes what happens is you might think, I mean, even if you think something's okay, you might start to feel like maybe the timing of this joke is just too slow, or that too much is being said because you've been so exposed to it. So you make it like too fast and too obscure, and then you realize, wait, that's not enough. Like that doesn't read because you didn't trust yourself. But back when it was a new thing, when you made it up, you had a more clear like grasp on how it should be. So, but of course, sometimes, like right now, what I was trying to do last night, sleep deprived, is I don't know if it happens to Blender shorts in the process. I know that a new Blender short is coming out when I start seeing some of you guys post like pictures from the audio post house, the guy that does the sound design. It's like, okay, now this is the last stage. But for me, that's what I've been doing the last few days. And when I do that, I kind of get to see like 25 things that I see, little tweaks I have to make. I'm working on the audio, but it's the first time I'm watching the whole video done. It's like, this effect doesn't work. I forgot to add a transition here. So then I have a laundry list of final fixes. So last night I was done with my video and I was with the sound, and now I just have to do these little fixes, but you can't be all like, on your last breath of like consciousness. You have to be the most judicious and careful. So I'm
Exactly.
gonna do that today.
Because if you thought about that when you were watching it, is because they really mean something to you. So you should be you should be rested when you do it.
Yeah, you gotta be the final judge of like, remove yourself, like pretend I don't like any of this, I don't know what this is. Does it make sense? Is there anything that jumps out at me that
Yeah.
doesn't, like sometimes a shot I do like an effect, none of my effects are like that fancy, but there'll be like a thing like, boy, that looks like 1991, like some show that's not even Star Trek but was trying to compete with Star Trek that has cheesier effects.
Hey, it's good
Like,
aesthetics.
yeah, so you have to sometimes just go back and fix stuff.
Next
Is that the
question.
what was the question?
I
think
don't
we
know. I
strayed
think
away.
how do your ideas for videos come out? But I think this is part of the
Yeah.
the answer. Next question is, how long does it take to make up every time?
Well, you saw in my record was captured in the Blender conference, and my biggest regret is not to have the not thinking of putting a little camera backstage to
Oh.
watch the real time, like to have a version of watching me put it on, because it was like a superhuman effort. Like I only tried it. I was like, yeah, I'll do it during the song. Like I know it takes usually like 20 minutes, but I'll do it in a minute and a half or
Yeah.
whatever. It was like a part of the song that I could do it, and the whole song is only like 3 minutes something. So I just put all the things backstage, like ready to go, and I put on all the makeup at superhuman speed. Like it was very sloppy, but it worked for the stage. And then the stage hands of that venue were like amazing ladies that were like helping, like they knew what I was going to do. And when they saw me like rush, they were like helping me. Like someone was like taking my pants off and putting the other pants. And then the last moment when I was about to come out and I have to sing the end of the song, like I didn't even realize that I had torn off my microphone to change and didn't put it back on. So the one girl like was like, and I'm like, just screw it, I'm gonna scream in the auditorium.
Yeah.
How did I say that just now? Auditorium.
Yes.
And like forget the mic. But she was like, no, I'm putting, as I'm like leaving, she's like chasing after me and like sticking the thing on my head, and it was literally last second that it popped out. Like her hands were leaving my head as I emerged from the thing, in the curtain in the wrong place.
And the effects and stuff. Crazy.
Yeah, and it worked out. So yeah, it was the most tense makeup moment of my career. But yeah, no, usually I don't go so crazy, and it takes like 15-20 minutes.
Okay, 15.
Because I'm like trying to remember my lines and think of what I'm going to film on the day. And when I put the makeup on, like even though it's silly and like my life would be so much easier to not do that, sometimes I feel like it's like it makes me really judge like what I'm gonna do is what I'm gonna do today. I'm not gonna save this for another day because I don't want to do the makeup again. I gotta do the lines right. I gotta film everything that's planned, because this is inefficient if I do it again. So it keeps me organized and like working harder maybe than I would otherwise on a during the filming part of things.
Absolutely. I don't know. I'm lazy of turning on one lamp. Imagine having to put makeup on. Okay, the next question is, what are your thoughts on the trends of fast-paced tutorials like CG Matter, or I guess it's also the Ian Newer ones? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, my thoughts are they're awesome, but of course I don't think that they are. I don't think. Well, I don't know. I know Ian's, and I know that he doesn't mean for them to be like he didn't expect you to really be able to do the thing to that level. It's just like it's like a teaser for you to watch, to pause his screenshots of the things he's doing and check, okay, this is that node, this is that menu, but then you gotta like figure it out. So I think it's a very smart kind of tutorial. It'll get you part of the way there, and it'll force you to like make up your own real-time like part of it.
Yes.
And that's like you're just making, it's not giving you like the regurgitated step-by-step stuff, because you know how
the sound, we can't hear you. Is that something happened?
I'm sorry, I accidentally like pressed my keyboard and
there's a shortcut for
mute.
Yeah.
At what point did I come off? Sorry, I was saying like some tutorials that are overly detailed and like just digesting every little bit for you. You end up with like all these demo reels of people that you see that they did an effect, and it's basically from that tutorial. Like you know it's from that because it's too specific, too obvious. But something like these like quick flyby tutorials, they make you see how a thing works and then throws you in the pool. Like you got to figure out the in-between steps. So I think maybe that's a really smart way to get people like using their own brain and doing these things, and they're more fun to watch. Like if I'm not gonna do that,
No,
I want to see the minute version.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I think for experienced people it's even better, and for beginners it's a good inspiration as well. And to even see like it's possible, but this is the shortcut. And okay, next question is about the features again, and then the next one, what would you say to aspiring VFX artists? Do you think that there is enough scope for young artists?
Well, that would be a better question for someone that like works in the industry, like Sean Kennedy or someone, right? Like people that work at post houses and do certain jobs in certain VFX companies. Yeah. I'm like, I do effects, but I could be doing anything. I'm just like making YouTube videos. So, but it seems from the outside as a layman, like there's plenty of work for VFX artists, but it sounds like it's a field that's struggling to be like equitable and fair, and
I wonder,
like
so
the competition weird. Being like, I don't know, not fair. I don't know what word I'm looking for. Just like it's an industry that's not a little lopsided or something. Like it needs to figure itself out. I don't work in the industry and like technically, and so I think it's a if you like visual effects, you should do it and you should learn the skills. And as a freelancer, you probably find a lot of work with just knowing how to do certain things in certain specialized software. Like by default, you're going to have more options than just someone that doesn't know these things, but can't speak to the overall industry and the difficulties therein. Like I think it sounds like VFX artists sometimes have to move a lot, because especially if you're doing VFX for film and big productions, like they'll be looking for the least expensive, the most convenient
animators too, digital nomads gotta go around. Okay, by the way, we are on time already. Do you have do you have like if you had to leave now, we can I am okay.
You're okay? Well, I'm hanging out here. You're simply slightly delaying the full completion of my video for the for the 1.7 million subscribers that are eagerly awaiting it. But honestly, I'm not in a hurry, because this gives me an excuse to just gather my thoughts and have a pleasant conversation with someone who I admire, and talk to a community that I really like and feel at home in. So I'm cool. Like, let's answer some more questions. There's not a lot, right? Let's just
there is
and get all of them.
Okay, let's see. I'm not gonna refresh the page just so we can get at least those that we these are the ones like that were answered.
Maybe I'll try to just tweet the other, look at it later and tweet the rest of the
new ones. I added a heart to all of them, so it's the ones that without a heart. Have you seen the recent UFO over the moon video? What are your thoughts on it?
I accidentally stumbled onto that the other day, like when I was like not even seen by anyone. It was like it had like a handful of views, and someone like some early person that was like one of the first people to post it. I saw it, I looked at it, and now it's like blowing up. But that would make a good video. I wish I'd be like, I better get that would make probably a good next episode. I just gotta hustle and make something. But yeah, it's a cool candidate for a debunking, because it's real debunkable.
Nice.
But yeah, it's I think that would be like a good, because there's visual effects point of view things to say about it, but also I would talk to like a person that knows anything about astronomy or physics to just say like, that's stupid because of this and
because
this,
that and
because
that
of the scale.
No, actually that's a nicer angle. Even
it would be a nice collab to do both. Like this is from the visual effects point what you can tell, and this is what physics tells us. That's flat out contradicts what you're seeing. So yeah.
Do you have for the future videos, you already have planned like, I don't know, 5 videos, or you try to keep it up with your patrons side? Or
I always have a problem with focusing on like one thing at a time. Like I mean, I have ideas, but they're very abstract. Like there's sometimes a video I want to do an episode on, but I really need to feel like I have a handle on like how like how am I going to present it, because it's so tied into like whatever goofiness I'm going to be saying, you know, on screen. And yeah, and then as soon as I zero in on a video and actually write the script and actually shoot it, I'm like all about that video, and I can't be thinking about anything else. And so when I'm done, I'm like, okay, what now? Now my life has to move on. What do I do? So I you know, that's one of those skills, along with working with others, that I need to like evolve in myself. Like, okay, I gotta spin multiple plates at once. I'd be such an artiste that I'm just like focused on this one thing. Yeah.
All right, thank you. How is Mr. Flair doing this in these difficult times?
Still looking for a body. You know, he's lost his lamp because it broke. Is it still here? I had the lamp, the remnants of the lamp somewhere. He tragically got smashed into a wall a couple of years ago, and so I'm looking for potentially giving him some sort of mechanical body that would give him a little more autonomy. There's some sort of means. I don't know what possible software or, you know, techniques could be used to have Mr. Flair move around and have his own personality, but we'll see what we can do.
Kind of cyborg.
In the near future.
All right, next comment is thank you, Alan, for inspiring me to learn Blender in the first place. It's incredible to see such a great, powerful and free program being utilized professionally. Are there any features you would like to see in Blender?
I guess we kind of covered that before.
With the smiley sequencer?
Editing, just like a lot of workflow. I guess like to zoom out on what I was saying before with the video editor, like the integration, like a pipeline, like you said, you like talking about workflow and pipeline, like the tools for, there's all kinds of ways you can rig that up in Blender, but it feels like we're just like, we're rigging it up. And if there was like sort of a not advocated, or like an advocated way of how to do it, but not necessarily rigid, like this is how this software works, it would be good. Like if there was someone thought of like, if one was to use Blender from start to end, this is the way that it's naturally designed to be used. I feel like there isn't one way right now.
No.
And it's a little bit like you're floating. So, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't design software, so maybe that's not a way to approach it. But I would feel more like, oh, they're guiding me. There's like, I'm walking through corridors of a museum, and there's little arrows of like, this is where you go next. Maybe I want to go to that room, but maybe I want to experience it the way you meant. So yeah, that'd probably be good.
That would be, I think, that would be great for everybody. Did you manage to get any sleep?
Yeah, well, I mean, Twitter forced me to, people were saying just go to sleep, because really if I had kept working, I would have probably missed some of the mistakes I was trying to fix, and then I would still be basically publishing the video today, at least by the American time. Yeah, like, so not a big difference. So I got just enough sleep to be sort of coherent for you guys today. And I'm gonna probably crash like the moment that we sign off. I'm just gonna fall back.
Really?
Take a nap of 10 minutes before getting back into finishing the video.
Well, okay, the remaining questions, actually there's two. One is edge groups, which is a thing that is being talked about in the previous episodes. It's more like a feature request. We plan to make a video. We were talking with the developers today, with Dalai and Brecht, about how to maybe just make one video with the typical questions that people ask all the time. But anyway, there is another, is actual how can I render selected frames. It is more not to you, but how to use Blender. The answer is exactly how you're like explaining it here, but in the command line. You have to render via command line, and then you can render specific frames or a range of frames and stuff.
That's about like skipping certain frames and only rendering a set of frames.
Yeah, you can use it.
I wanted to do that. I mean, I don't know how to do that. I'd have to like look at that, but there's been times where I felt I needed, because if I'm like fixing little patches of mistakes but there's more than one in a shot, it'd be nice to just do it with one pass. Yeah,
I don't know how to do it with inside Blender, but in the terminal you can do, like, if you run Blender with the -B for background, the name of the blend file, and then -F, and then you can do like 1-10, and it will render the first 10 frames or You can specify which one.
understood that.
But in
Definitely.
in the terminal. Yeah, it's not the best.
Okay.
I should. It's not that I don't have a computer in front of me. But anyway.
No, I got you.
So
No,
okay.
It sounds doable. Sounds like
So-
something I could learn.
Command line rendering is the best, and it renders much faster than using the like F12, you know, for rendering. It's
Yeah.
it's faster because it doesn't have to update the whole viewport and UI.
Oh, that's
and
good to
everything.
know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's much faster.
I'm one of the things I'm awful at is just thinking. I mean, it's hard enough to just get things looking sort of like how you want in Blender, in a Blender scene. Not you know, because like artistry wise for me. So like it's I can't be thinking about how to be efficient with the rendering. Like, could this same look be achieved with a much simpler, you know, setup that doesn't take like an hour per frame? That's why I love Ian's work with it's like so realistic and gritty looking, and it's all like a lot of it is done with Eevee, and it's like, shut up, man. Like, for this video I've been rendering like a different look to the walls of my room that's very basic. I had to outsource. I had to use a service to render because I couldn't render it because it was taking too long per shot. So yeah, I'd like to learn about some of that.
Yeah. Next, okay, last two questions. The first one is a captain in is a captain in lockdown.
Well, I'm part of the world, so yes, I am.
He says,
it's not
give
too
Alan.
much of a strict lockdown here. I mean, I'm in lockdown anyway. Like, I kind of feel like as a, you know, independent content creator, like my life thankfully hasn't been affected too much at the moment, and I really see daylight as little as I've seen it
in the past. So
before the pandemic, yeah, and I'm grateful for that, but it's like sometimes now that I can't go somewhere, I want to be social now. This is the time I've chosen to go to want to go to parties. But when the pandemic is over or we figure out how to live in a new way, like, I'm gonna be going back to my normal routine and not wanting to go anywhere once I have the choice.
Yes, same. I'm waiting for that freedom to be able to say I want to be inside.
It's
And
counterculture.
and it says give Alan a kick for me if he's holding you up. And
Wait, who's giving who a kick? Oh
no,
you
it's
mean
a captain in
people-
lockdown. Give Alan a kick for me if he's holding you up.
Oh yes, well, you know, I try to keep him up into shape, but sometimes he really slows me down. Anytime I'm late with anything,
Yeah.
Alan's fault.
And the last question. Hello, Captain D and Alan. Do you exclusively use Blender for your work, or is your workflow dependent on other software? If so, do you plan to change that? We already talked about it a little bit, but so it's
Sort of like, yeah, I would love to. Right now, it doesn't feel that way for me, but I use After Effects. I use, like I said, Synthesize. I use Pro Tools to mix the sound. I use Avid Media Composer for editing, like some kind of old school film editor or news guy. I use I don't know, Photoshop. What are my shortcuts on my computer? Yeah, Avid Media Composer, Photoshop, After Effects. Sometimes I use Audition. DaVinci Resolve. Reason for music. That beautiful Blender song was entirely produced in the program called Reason. And I've been playing with Clip Studio Paint for drawing in my ambitions to someday draw things somehow and do 2D animation. So yeah, that's about the arsenal of things I use.
it's good to keep it open.
But yeah, someday I dream of a future where I could keep it all in the box with Blender. That would be kind of awesome.
Yeah, it's also good to have some apps specialized in what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, sometimes just the idea that it's a different team did something, it's like it's gonna have a different outlook on it. They could be strong in one way or another, but like, you gotta have, like, what I'm saying is, I wish there was other development teams would follow suit with the Blender Foundation and build their business that way.
Yeah.
And have like free open source software.
Yeah, that would
and
be
just
amazing.
do other stuff and other ideas.
Yeah, that would be that would be like a dream, but I think it's fine. Like, for example, the game engine. There are so many good game engines out there that Blender really need one inside. And that was the last question. So I think we
Yay.
answer plenty. 23 comments we answered.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to. I hope it was helpful and illuminating for people.
It was. It
I
definitely
really enjoyed
was.
hanging out.
I was looking at the chat and people seemed very happy to have you here, and I was like,
this is me. This is
nice.
me in like, just like thoughtful, like tired mode. Not my usual cheery self. So I hope it was entertaining on some level.
It definitely was.
Talking shop is fun sometimes.
It was, definitely was. You do live streams, you said, right? Over at Patreon.
Yeah. I've done some live streams on like for my patrons. I was thinking, like, on the topic of like trying to kind of provide the little bit of skills I have, which is just making sort of entertaining content. At the time, I might like make my next few. I'll post this video early for patrons and stuff, but I might make a few things that even if you're not my patron, if you went to the post, you could see it. Like maybe some behind the scenes stuff related to this upcoming video. And maybe I'll do a stream for the first time that's fully visible on my channel. I'm a little scared to do that, but this is inspires me to do it maybe.
Well,
so might do that, but if at the very least patrons will get to see some streams sometimes. What I usually do, it's called Edit Bay Delirium, my stream. And it's usually like when I'm struggling with a video and I just let people in on while I'm editing and chatting with them but sometimes I do it to watch the video. It's sort of like my own version of a YouTube premiere, except it's just a live stream, so I can play the video and pause it and talk about all the complaints I have about a particular moment or whatever.
That sounds.
So I might do this kind of viewing party.
Nice. That sounds like fun. Yeah, and I can see how it can be scary to your almost 2 million subscribers to just like I don't know, I wouldn't be able.
It's live. It's scary. You're live to the whole bunch of people.
I know, but Patreon,
don't want to end up that live stream fails. Sorry.
In Patreon is people that really, really support you, and they are there because they love you and the work you do. So it's like more safe in a way.
Yeah. It feels like a little family of people. Yeah. Not that you can do no wrong, but like they do want to support you, and it's
nice like
environment.
An extra level
love my
of
patrons.
Support.
I love you, my patrons. I just want to say it publicly that you make my life possible, and I really appreciate you. And love.
So nice. I put you full screen for that. So nice. All right. So I'm sharing your social media. You can also find in the video description. You're gonna find the Twitter, YouTube, and Patreon, where you can go and support Captain Disillusion, also known as Alan.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for staying here. I really had a good time. We could do it again. I was planning on sharing it with Ian and maybe some other VFX artists and stuff. Sure. But I really think
I want to ask questions of my own to smarter people, more skilled than me. So
tomorrow, if you're gonna be awake, at this same time, is gonna be Ian Hubert here on the live stream.
I would not miss that.
That would be very nice. We can have you on the.
I will be promoting a lot out of that link.
Oh, no, asking questions. Just ask Ian. But I really like to see a collab of you and Ian at some point. I don't even know what exactly. Like finding moths on.
It just feels right.
Just feels right.
He's been very supportive of me. Like I've been struggling with this video and like getting it out and just like sleepless nights, and he's been very nice, messaging me like, and saying just things of support. He's a really awesome guy.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Big fan. So, all right. Again, thank you. I'm gonna close the call and go into full screen. Say goodbye to the community.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Pablo.
Thank you.
Talk to you later.
All right, community, how was it for you? I had a blast. We talked about everything. We talked about the Blender stuff, but also like in general, the creator stuff. I really enjoy that. Thank you for the comments in the chat I was following here. It's having this one-on-one actually makes me follow the chat much more, so I'm pretty happy that I can do that. I'm happy I get to learn stuff from people. This week is gonna be crazy. We started with Captain Disillusion. Tomorrow, Ian Hubert. On Wednesday, we're gonna have the live Felinto developer like going around and browsing around the Blender code. Thursday, I'm still thinking about it. Maybe the Blender Animation Studio people. I'm still thinking about which guest to have. You can write in the comments, please, if you want to have like a guest, a specific guest that would like me to, I don't know, talk about, interview. It's not so much of an interview, it's more like just seeing how, and just having a chat and seeing how people use Blender every day. So let's do it again tomorrow, same place, same time. Remember that in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you. See you tomorrow, same place, same time. Bye-bye.